Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me for this edition of Business Over Brunch. My name is Kima, and I'm the creator and host of this podcast. I'm also the founder and senior publicist of Maddie Clay Branding and Public Relations and the creative director for Red Hat Media Group. But enough about me. Let's talk about this podcast. We are your newest beauty podcast, and we'll be speaking with insiders and contributors to the business and to the beauty industry. So join me here every first and third Saturday as we get the tea or the brunch on the beauty industry. And if you joined us last week for our live relaunch, we are super excited and we are so thankful that you joined us. Today, we're bringing back LaVonndra Johnson. She is the founder of Elle Johnson Co. as well as Kopper Beauty. So, Elle, thank you for coming back and sharing some with us and continuing the conversation.
Thank
Good
you
morning.
for having me. Good morning.
Of course, of course. Thank you again for giving us another little bit of your Saturday. I know the beauty boss is busy, and she has some things that she needs to get done. So, tell us a little bit, for those who didn't join us last week, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. Well, my name is LaVonndra Johnson. A lot of my friends call me Elle, and I am the founder of Elle Johnson Company. And it is a botanical based luxury skincare line that targets women of color and our skincare issues. In addition to that, we now have a new division of the company, which is called Kopper Beauty. And that division focuses purely on the cosmetics aspect of beauty.
Awesome. And I am a customer of Elle Johnson Skincare, and it's keeping my skin glowing, even on days when I'm not wearing makeup. So, before we get started, of course, it's Saturday, it's brunch time. I'm sipping on a little bit of mocha cappuccino like a boss. What are you having for brunch today?
Girl, water is all I got. Like, I have, been enjoying COVID and quarantine and eating and doing all the wrong things. And now I got to get myself together because apparently we're going to be open this spring and summer. And so now I'm like on a mad dash to kind of get myself back in shape.
Trust me, I understand. I understand. I did the Daniel fast in February, and I transitioned into pescatarian. But the last couple of weeks, like I've had the worst sweet tooth, so now I got to get back to what I had been doing before. So let's go ahead and jump in. So LaVonndra, you have Elle Johnson, and you now have Copper Beauty. What were some of your inspirations with starting your brands?
Well, starting my skincare line, skincare is something like I didn't have horrible skin growing up. I didn't have what you would consider bad skin, but I had extremely oily skin. And I never knew how to treat it because, back in that day, your grandma and your mama put Vaseline on your face and that was it. That was the extent of your skincare regimen. And so I did not know how to treat my oily skin, which caused the blackheads. And as I began to, get older and seek out remedies, for my skin, and I was also in transition of my prior business, which is the fashion industry. I knew I wanted something in the beauty space, but I wasn't sure exactly what. So I played around with few different ideas from hair to makeup, and I landed on skincare because I felt it was something that I could really grow and push myself with. But my frustration came when I began to tackle my skincare issues is that a lot of the regimens that I was seeing were way too many steps. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not a girl that wants to do a 10-step regimen. I just don't have time for that. Also, that's very expensive. And then also, when I would come across something that maybe I liked, it didn't have the aesthetic that I wanted. I wanted something, that was well packaged, beautifully packaged, and could sit up on my vanity, and look really pretty. I'm a girly girl. I like nice things. I like, really pretty, dainty things. And I just was not finding that. And so, I just finally decided, hey, I have not been able to find what I want. I have a background in branding. I'm going to create my own line. And so it kind of grew from there. It took me maybe about 18 months or so to get it up and running, but it's been like the most fulfilling process and the most fulfilling business that I've had.
Awesome. You've grown the brand so much over the last couple of years. I'm excited, for everything that you have going on. So now you have Copper Beauty. And when I see you, I always see you as very simple, very natural look. So I never expected for you to come and say, I have a cosmetics line. So And of course, we know cosmetics is more than like contour and all that other
Right.
good stuff. So, what were you thinking when you said, "Okay, now let me take this a step further and bring in the cosmetics"?
Well, you're exactly right. I'm a chocolate girl. I love my nude. As you can see today, like I don't go crazy with the colors and all that on my face. It's just not me. But I do have a appreciation for cosmetics and colored beauty. I absolutely love the aesthetic. I love all the vibrant colors. It's just not something that I personally wear. So again, I wanted to create something for someone like me. Someone like me who, doesn't have to have all the wild, crazy stuff. Like I don't want my makeup to have Disney characters on it. Like I'm a grown 40-year-old woman. I don't need all the extra fluff, that I see a lot of the brands doing now, to kind
Mm-hmm.
of draw people in. Like I enjoyed Beauty and the Beast when I was old enough to enjoy beauty or young enough to enjoy Beauty and the Beast, but I don't want it on my makeup. And so I was like, I want something that really speaks to that simple aesthetic. And so again, like I'm one of those people where if I see a need for something or I feel that if there's a void for something, especially something that, I deem important to me, I have the thought process that maybe there's someone else that thinks that
Mm-hmm.
way also. And so that's how Kopper Beauty was born. And that's not to say that we're not going to do color, because the next collection that I launched for Kopper Beauty will be color. We're just pushing this initial aesthetic out, which is very heavy with, the browns, the neutrals, those warm
Mm-hmm.
colors. So I'm super excited about it. It's very new. We just launched Kopper Beauty January the 1st, and we're still in somewhat of a soft launch phase because I really haven't had the opportunity to really push it and implement it just due to some personal issues at the
Mm-hmm.
start of the year.
Yeah.
But you'll definitely see more of that in the coming weeks.
Well, I'm definitely excited, and I'm going to also be a customer of Copper Beauty because I like what you said about the aesthetic and keeping everything simple. And that's how I am, even in despite me having this bright red hair, even in like the way that I put together my makeup and even my clothes. For the longest, like my wardrobe was void of color. Like you would just see a whole bunch of black and neutrals and different things like that. So yeah, I'm definitely that soft, simple, natural type girl. So I definitely appreciate, the fact that you would start the line for that particular reason. Someone who can still, put together a nice, put together classic look with just not having so much color and it still be like wonderful. So I'm definitely excited for that. So let's talk about the fact that you launched Copper Beauty January 1st. We're in
Mm-hmm.
the middle of a pandemic still,
Yes.
and it seems to be coming to a head, and I'm so happy for that. So, there's this thing called the lipstick effect, and not everyone is, too familiar with that. And it says that during times like this, people spend a lot of money on, self-care or luxury items. So when you were thinking about, launching this, as well as maintaining Elle Johnson Co. Like, what were some of your thoughts in regards to, running a beauty brand during this time? And, did your business excel in spite of the fact that we were, in lockdown for a long time?
Right. Well, you're absolutely right that a lot of people are spending more time, energy, and money towards their self care during this pandemic, just because that's all that we've had is self care, taking care of your mental being, your physical being. And so my experience with the pandemic as a beauty brand owner was completely different than that of most businesses. So for me, the pandemic exploded my brand. Like I remember at the height of it, around the June, July time, like I literally could not keep up with the orders that were coming in because it was just so much volume. I think people, have been at home, they're scrolling the gram, they're looking for ways to make themselves feel better. They're looking for creative outlets because they're stuck at home. So a lot of people have used the time to focus on their skincare regimen, getting their skin in as best condition as possible. You also have, those creatives who have spent their time working on their craft. So, for
Mhm.
instance, the makeup artists and the gurus, because everything has gone digital.
Right.
So, they have spent that time, creating tutorials, working on their skill set. And so, for me, being in the middle of the pandemic was nothing that deterred me from launching Copper Beauty. If anything, it pushed me to really do it. And, because I had the momentum with the skincare brand, it kind of fueled Kopper Beauty as well, because I somewhat have a built-in customer base.
Right. And you're right. Like, especially for creatives, people who are making TikTok videos, we had to do a lot of, lives. Last year was the first time that I had gone live consistently. You want to have a look, you want to make sure your skin is good. And
Right.
so definitely you don't have anywhere to go, but your skin is still going to be popping. It's still going to be
Right.
glowing inside the house. So congratulations on, all the success with that. And I just continue to, cheer from the background. So let's talk about, you said scrolling the gram.
Mm-hmm.
Your aesthetic overall just screams luxury. So, with your background in branding and, of course, building the brand, what are some things that you would suggest for someone who is either looking to start a skincare or cosmetics line, and how that should look, for them when they think about, drawing in, their target client from the social media aspect?
Absolutely. So it kicks back to three key things for me that I always tell anyone that I'm working with or giving advice to when it comes to beauty brands and aesthetics. So I go by what I call the three P's. So you have your product, you have your packaging, and you have your placement. So as I began to build my brand, I knew I had the product because I had a manufacturer that worked with me, and they created all the formulas and everything and got the product to where I felt it was a great product. It's, gentle, it's effective, it's clean, it's all of those things. So now that you have the product, you then have to look towards the concept of packaging. And I think this is where a lot of brand owners not necessarily go wrong. It's just that they don't have that baseline of information as to how to go about packaging their product, because
Mhm.
packaging is really key. And I knew for me, packaging was going to be as equally as important as my product. My product had to look good, but it also had to work. And
Right.
I understood that being the underdog, being the new person coming into the beauty brand, I had to capture the attention of my potential customer. I had to capture the attention of any editors or stylists or anyone that could talk about my brand. So I had to have something that would draw them in.
Mhm.
And for me personally, not any diss to anyone else, because I know a lot of brands do go, just for the standard glass bottle or the little glass serum bottle that you
Mhm.
traditionally see. I knew I didn't want that, because I did not want my brand to be mistaken for anyone else. I wanted my brand to have a very distinct look. So packaging is really important. And then the third P is positioning. Like you mentioned, in regards to just scrolling the gram and, just checking out different people, you want to position yourself to win. And for me, positioning myself to win meant that I had to take into account the overall aesthetic of my line, not just the product, not just the packaging, but when I push that information out to the public, I had to make sure that it's positioned properly, the website is consistent, the social media is consistent, so that wherever you go, if you see me, you begin to recognize me,
Mhm.
because there's a repetition there, and the branding. Like, I've had people tell me, hey, I was scrolling and before the picture even got all the way up, I knew it was your stuff.
Mhm.
Because you want that. So that's important for me. The three P's: product, packaging, and positioning.
Awesome. And everything that you do, it absolutely follows that. And you can absolutely tell that whether or not it's you doing it or someone behind the scenes, that, that there's an understanding of how you want your brand to be presented. And you brought up a good point in regards to, you wanted it to be noticed by editors, bloggers, other brands or stylists. I don't think that a lot of people think about that when they're launching their brands. I presented a webinar a couple of weeks ago, and that was one of the things that I mentioned when I was taking them through how to get their brand ready for the press, is that, no matter what stage you're in business development, you always want to think of your brand as press ready. And I think that if people, understand that concept, that it'll be a lot easier in some regards to, put together their social media, their brand messaging, their website, because those are all things that, will help get your brand noticed and be placed in some of those different arenas.
Right.
So with your packaging. We talked really briefly last week about your packaging and what people should, kind of expect when they are looking to, put together their brand for whether it be skincare, makeup, whatever the case may be. So talk to us a little bit about the process that you underwent with your packaging, and if you have some examples of the evolution of Elle Johnson Co. If you could show those so people can have
Yeah.
an understanding of how it started and how it's going.
Sure. So for me, like I said, when I started, I knew I wanted a luxurious aesthetic, but I didn't know how far I was going to go into that deep dive of packaging and aesthetics because, let's be honest, packaging is expensive, especially
Mhm.
when you get to the concept of wanting customized packaging, which is why I think a lot of brand owners starting out just kind of go for the glass pipette type packaging because it's easily accessible and it's cost effective. So for me, when I began to work with my manufacturer, well, prior to that, when I was in the testing phase, I would just send out, little miniature bottles of product. That one was like so far long ago. I think I maybe only had 100 of them at the time because that's, what I could afford. And I was just trying to get some feedback from the brand. So those I don't have, but I do have my first packaging that I launched with. So when I first launched, like I said, I didn't know how far I wanted to go in packaging. So the manufacturer, which oftentimes they will do this, presented to me their packaging to say, okay, we'll bottle it, we'll package it for you. This is the bottle that we use. You can put your logo on it and, it comes to you ready. So I started out with this black packaging, and it was very sleek and I really liked it. It's beautiful. I do like it a lot. This one even has my original old logo on it. And I liked it. It's still a pump and it still protects the product. But my one thing about it is that I didn't feel it had that feminine aesthetic that I really wanted. And I was like, how can I change this? Or what are my options? Like, I like this, but I know this is not the end result of where I want to be. So what can I do to make it better? And then I started working on my color story,
Mhm.
um, which is really important as a brand owner because you want that to be consistent. You want to be known for it. And I love gold. I've always loved gold. Like I love golds and ivories and tans
Mhm.
and, those neutral colors, but gold is always my accent color. And I was like, I got to find something different because this is good. And I started with this, but I was like, this is not the end all be all. And so I began researching and seeking out packaging manufacturers in China because it's so much, more costly and
Mhm.
cost effective rather to go through China than to get a US manufacturer for the packaging. And so I also knew that starting out, when I started out with this bottle is a higher price point because it contains more product.
Mhm.
And I said, okay, if I'm entering the market as a luxury brand, people don't know me. They don't know, how great these products are. Although I can tell them a million times, that's really not going to, sway them too much when you're asking for 40 plus dollars a bottle. I said, I need something smaller. I need another option to kind of give them the chance to try the line before they commit to the larger size. So I found a packaging manufacturer with the expertise to kind of craft a bottle that I really loved. And so let me see if I can get it right. This is the bottle that I ended up
Mhm.
going with. The great thing about this bottle and in working with my manufacturer is that they offered it to me in different sizes. So I have the miniature size, which is like a trial size or travel size, which is like a 15 ml size. But then also I have double, which gives me the same amount of product that the black bottle had. So
Okay.
now my customers have options. They can, either go for this one to try it or go for this one. So oftentimes what happens is, they will go for this 15 ml size, try it, fall in love with the line. And when it's time to restock, they go for the larger bottle because they've now tried it. They know that it works. They've been consistent in their regimen and they feel confident. So now another reason in me going with this particular packaging as well, especially when you think of clean beauty, the focus is on the ingredients. What is in this product. People want to see it. And so I really fell in love with the concept of having a clear bottle so that people can see exactly what they're putting on the face. They also can see how much they have left, because it's the worst thing when you have an opaque bottle of something that you absolutely love, and you're not knowing it, but you get to the end of the bottle and you run out and you don't have a backup. Like, that is the worst
Right.
thing.
That happened to me with my setting spray. Went to go set, and it was just like psh, psh.
Yes, that is the worst thing. And so I was like, I feel like I'm very transparent in my journey, and I want to be transparent, in the products that I'm putting out there so that you can see exactly what you get. We all remember the Capri Sun fiasco when they had mold and stuff at the bottom because you couldn't see through the packaging. And I was like, no, I want you to see, exactly what you're getting with my line.
I love it. Thank you for showing that. So when you're talking about packaging
Mhm.
and ordering units, like most of them have a minimum number of units. So if someone's looking to, start their own line from a really broad estimate, what would you say would be like the dollar amount they should have ready to, go
Woo.
into packaging and manufacturing and
Right.
different things like that?
Um, well, it depends on a couple of factors. I think one suggestion that I would have for anyone looking to launch a beauty brand or a beauty line, and something, if I had to do it all over again, I would start with one product. When I launched my line, I started with 5, and that's just because the approach to my line has always been comprehensive skincare.
Mm-hmm.
But I would recommend to start with maybe 1 to 2 products, because it will save you so much money and you can do so much more. So, ballpark price, if you're just looking to, develop and package 1 to 2 products, you can do that minimally depending on the packaging. Now, if you're wanting to go with, a customized packaging, then you need to typically be ready to order at least like 2,000 bottles of whatever it is that you're getting, if it's going to be a customized package. And then with transport, your production costs and all of that, if you can do it for about 5,000, I think that would be ideal,
Mm-hmm.
and that's 1 to 2 products with a customized look. Now, if you're not going for a customized look, or if you're just looking to maybe purchase and utilize bottles that are just readily available, like your glass bottles or your glass jars, then you can do that so much more cost effective, because the way that you personalize that is through your labels. So
Mm-hmm.
you can go with something that's a little more basic, but then just jazz up your labels, create a unique identity to the format and the coloring of your labels. And that will give you that standout look as well. And you can do that for about half the price.
Awesome. So that's good to know because I don't know if I told you, but I have been playing around and I haven't played with them in a while. So I need to get back, get busy playing around with like different oils, oil
Okay.
mixtures for hair growth and retention. So that's definitely something that's on my radar. Not this year, but maybe within the next couple of years
Okay.
to begin putting that out. So that's some good information. So if anybody out there is looking to start any type of brand in the beauty industry, you've just gotten some really good nuggets on how to brand and look for different packaging and make some customized options for you. So how, and I think you answered this a little bit, but as a consumer, not seeing that void of what you needed and then also the experience of what you got from different brands,
Mhm.
how did your past experience as a consumer shape who you are as an entrepreneur?
I think the most important thing that shaped me, and when it comes to my brand, just has been my overall experience with customer service. And that is like very high when it comes to my brand and the importance of things and the hierarchy structure. Customer service is super important to me. And I think it's even more important to me as a Black brand owner, because we see people all the
Mhm.
time, dog Black owned brands for customer service.
Yes.
Or, if the least little thing goes wrong, their justification is like, try to support a Black owned business and this is what happens. And it frustrates me when people do that, because I have never in my life heard anyone say, I tried to support a white owned business and this is what happens. Like, I've never heard that ever, ever, ever. But we hear it when it comes to
Mhm.
Black owned businesses. And so that definitely shaped my experience. And it has molded me as an entrepreneur to where customer service is first with my brand. And it's super reassuring when I get those reviews and feedback from
Mhm.
customers, and they're like, hey, their customer service is top notch. I emailed them with a question and they responded. Or if there's an issue with the order, they fixed it right away. That is super important to me, because I feel like it's also a minimum when it comes to a luxury good.
Mhm.
People are paying a premium cost for it to be a luxury good, and the customer service has to reflect that as well. So I would say that is the key thing that has influenced me both as a consumer as well as a brand owner.
Right, and I definitely understand that, and I've had nothing but great experiences with the brand, and for me it kind of makes I'm horrible with opening my mail, even though I know it's coming, and I know I ordered something, and I might need to try it on. I will wait. I don't know why I do this,
Mhm.
but every time I do, I get like in under the 11th hour, and they're like, "Okay, great, I can go ahead and fix that for you." I've never had an issue with doing that, so I think that customer service is definitely something that everyone should, look into. If you're if you don't have a customer service background, which there are, brands who, start brands that never worked with customers before, I think it will be, something to do to take a customer service class. They're, not expensive. You can find them online, and I think it'll definitely help in the long run in regards to your branding. And because sometimes when you're starting off, we all know that, money runs how you look. So sometimes your website, you might have to do it yourself. Your
Mhm.
labeling, you might have to do it yourself. Your packaging, you might have to go with the one that looks like everybody else. But that customer service a lot of times will keep people coming back to you, even
Yes.
if your brand isn't physically attractive when you start off. So that is a very good point. Before we wrap up, I want to go back to what you said about being positioned and being seen by editors. In the last year, you have been everywhere. And I know that you are doing this on your own, based upon, your background and everything like that. So of course, as a publicist, I would always say, if you want to be seen in the press, you need to hire someone to do it for you. But there are few people like yourself who, have an understanding, have a background, and are able to get those placements. What advice would you give someone who is, running their empire, from the product to the PR?
Right. um, PR is one of those things to where it requires diligence. It requires you to have continued conversations, and continually be visible. So I would say number one, and I know that we, hear this all the time, and I even tell people, stop paying and going to seminars where people just tell you to be consistent. And I do believe that, because I believe
That
that's a
part.
waste of money, because I feel like that is an automatic. And anything that you're doing, you should be consistent. But especially if you want to be noticed by PR, editors, stylists, that sort of thing, is that you do have to be consistent in your messaging. You have to be consistent in your branding, as well, because that is important. But then also you have to be personable.
Mhm.
So for me, my approach, to PR, it was a multifaceted approach. So when I first began, I knew that I had to get the word out about my brand. And although I live in Charlotte, I love Charlotte, born and raised, I know that this is not like a beauty mecca. So
Right.
I had to go to where they were. So I started out doing trade shows in New York, and I went to LA, I went to Atlanta, wherever I could go, to showcase my brand is what I did. And as I began to do that, I remember my first major press hit was Elle magazine. And I was in the shower, and I heard my phone kept dinging, and I was like, what is going on? Like, something must be wrong. I'm thinking maybe family or somebody's trying to reach
Mhm.
me. And so I get out of the shower, and like my website is just going crazy, and it was from this write up on
Wow.
the Elle magazine website. And I had met the editor there the summer in New York. I had exhibited at a beauty trade show, and she was walking the floor like they normally would, and she kind of walked past my booth and, kind of checked it out and was looking, she played it cool. She
Mhm.
walked off and started going, checking out some other people. And she came back to my booth and she said, I'm sorry, can I just like take photos and a video of your products and your packaging? And so she did. And a couple of days later, I found out who she was. A couple of days later, and she posted about it on Elle magazine, and that was like my first major hit. And so for me, it just reaffirmed what I already knew
Mhm.
in terms of my three P's. Once I found out who she was, I sent her the product, sent her a full set. But it just reaffirmed product, packaging, and placement.
Mhm.
And those were the key things that led her to me. She tried the product, she loved the product, she talked specifically about which product was her favorite. She loved the packaging. And that was like the big draw in the write up. There was
Mhm.
like, this is, Instagram worthy packaging, because
Right.
that's the era that we're in now. Everything is social media driven. You want your products to be Instagrammable. You want people to take it out of the box and immediately want to start showing it off, showing photos of it. And then just positioning. I was in the right place. You have to position yourself to win. I tell people that all the time. You may not win in your comfort zone. You got to step outside of that.
Mhm.
That means you have to travel and go network. And just from there, the PR grew. So I also, reach out to these PR people. With the great thing with social media, you can find anybody,
Mhm.
and most of them have their contact information in their bio. So I just started doing cold emails, just telling them who I was, telling them about my product, what it did, just opening up that conversation and making them aware. Now, the thing with this and what I tell people is that this this method only works if when they go to whatever channel you send them to,
Mhm.
it lives up to what you said it is. So, you can't send a direct email and say, hey, I have the best, lip balm on the planet. I want you to check it out, and then they go to look at your website and it's a hot mess.
Mhm.
They go to look at your social media. It is all over the place. Nothing seems consistent. So for me, I won because I made sure that it was consistent. Whatever I said it was,
Mhm.
when they got to the website, it was that and more. Whatever I said it would do, when they got the product, it did that. So, that's how I have positioned myself, just reaching out to them. Um, and I think another thing to point out is that with PR, sometimes it's seasonal and sometimes it takes a while to really get that hit. And I think that's what most people don't understand, especially when they hire a PR representative. They want immediate results. And so for instance, like over the summer when I was getting like a lot of traction, a lot of different write-ups and all the major publications like Cosmo and Hello Beautiful and all of those, some of these editors were people that I had emailed 2 years ago. And so I want people to understand that just because you don't get the hit today, they still may remember you
Mhm.
when they get to a story where you fit, because that's a big part of PR and editors when they're writing stories. If whatever you're selling doesn't fit for that article,
Mhm.
then they can't place you there. But hopefully, if you've opened that door and you've opened the lines of communication, when they get somewhere where you do fit, then it's just like an automatic thing. They can kind of put you in there. So these were people that I honestly forgot that I reached out to them,
Mhm.
but they kept my information on file because for some reason, maybe they liked the aesthetic, maybe they liked the reviews, and, when it was an opportunity to include me, they did.
Right.
So, PR is not something that you're necessarily going to get an instant gratification. Sometimes you do, but it's something that you gradually build upon. Sometimes it takes many conversations, and many interactions, liking photos, commenting, participating in their lives, just being authentic. So it's taken me some time, but it pays off.
Right, it definitely does. Congratulations again. But you hit on something from a PR standpoint in regards to it not being overnight, and it's not.
Right.
So, definitely want to, just emphasize the fact that if you hire a publicist, I'm available. But if you hire a publicist, you definitely want to give yourself anywhere from 6 to 8 months before you start seeing true results. And sometimes, it might be a year or two later, like she said, where they'll respond back and say, hey, are you still working with this client? Or we now want, to feature your client in a roundup of, the 10 best skincare products or, different things like that. That happened to me a couple of years ago where I had a client and she was just like, it's just not happening. And I'm like, I keep telling you, it takes time. And sure enough, she chose not to renew. But then a month later, somebody that I reached out to at the Huff Post, responded back. And, now you're not a client anymore. So now, I can't put you in Huffington Post. So,
Right.
you
Yeah.
definitely want to make sure that if you are looking to do PR on your own, that you understand, like LaVonndra said, that you have everything together, your website, your social media, your packaging, how you present, your consistency, all that is in order. Make sure your business pages are separate from your personal pages because you
Yeah.
do want them to be able to go and see your product and not have to sift through your life, different things like that. And if you're hiring a publicist, you definitely want to make sure that you can invest anywhere from low number 1,500 a month for at least 6 months to a year, so that you can begin seeing those results and start getting things out. And what we will do is spend a lot of time putting together your brand story and your messaging and different things like that. So there's a lot of things that go on in the background that either you'll have to do or whoever you pay has to do before you begin to see the results of what it is you're looking for. So
Yeah.
LaVonndra,
And you
thank
got to
you.
have product available. That's
That
the other
too.
thing. Like, it does you no good, to email all of these editors. And when they begin to ask for products, and I understand bootstrapping at the beginning because I still bootstrap to this day. But I understand, having limited amount of product and the limited amount that you have, you need to sell so that you can make money off of that. But when it comes to trying to get that PR placement, you got to be able to send out that product,
Mhm.
whatever it is that they're interested in or whatever it is that you're pitching, within that email, you need to ask them for the opportunity to send them that product, and especially when you get to the point of working with, someone like Kima, a PR professional, who may ask you to send 30 or 40 products to different editors.
Mhm.
If you can't do that, then you're not, fully ready, and maybe you should, try a different approach with PR or maybe scale it back some. But you do definitely have to be able to invest. It's a time commitment because you got to be patient. It's a financial commitment because you're paying and investing in someone to run and spearhead your PR campaign. But then also it is a product investment as well. So, something that we do now is if I'm launching a new product, I may automatically put 50 to 100 bottles to the side, and I know that those 100 bottles are going towards PR, influencers, bloggers, anyone that has a following that is on target with my brand that can speak to their consumer base. I have to allocate that product to go to those people.
That's another good point. Because oftentimes, too, like you said, when they respond back, they're either going to want a sample size or a full size product so they can try it and, put their stamp of approval on it. Just you saying a picture is not always going to be what it takes to, get that placement. So, and I've had that happen before, too. I let my clients know who I'm pitching, and one particular person responded back. And it was someone that they wanted to be in, and then all of a sudden she didn't want to send any products. So I'm like, okay, now you're messing with both of our names. So,
Right.
you definitely have to make sure that you have the products available and you really have an understanding that this is what you want. Because
Right.
once you sign that contract or once you sign that email on your own, there's no turning back.
Yep.
At all. Because what I've noticed now is that, especially in Outlook and Google, once you send the message and that little undo thing goes away, you can't
Yeah.
undo the email. So
Right.
you definitely want to make sure that you're ready. So LaVonndra, thank you again so much. For those of you, if you were following Business Over Brunch before when we launched, LaVonndra was with us. She was with us last week cooking. We had a wonderful time cooking shrimp and grits with Chef Tisha, and she came back today to finish out the conversation. So thank you again. I enjoy having you as a part of my business circle and friend circle, someone I know I can call on, and then be a supporter of her product brands because I have her wonderful set upstairs in my medicine cabinet that I use on a daily basis. So thank you so much. Any last piece of advice you want to give? Something, maybe something that we didn't hit on
Um,
while we were talking?
I think we covered a lot. I would just say be true to who you are in your brand, because I think that's another direction that, brands have now gone to, where owners are more integrated into the brand story. So,
Mhm.
who you are as a person has started to mesh in with your brand and your brand story. So just being authentic in who you are, knowing who you are, showcasing that, being personable, being professional. That is a key as well. And just going for it. Life is short. So if you want to do it, if you want to try it, go for it, but at the same time, it's always good to have that circle that you can bounce ideas off of, having someone like a mentor that you can maybe ask questions of. I think that's important as well, because, I've only had this brand almost 4 years, but I've been an entrepreneur for 17 years. And when I started, I didn't have a mentor. I had to basically learn and teach myself everything as I went along. And I'm grateful for that experience. But if you can connect with someone, it will save you a lot of those blocks in the road. And I had to learn a lot of it lessons. Some of them were expensive. And if you can find someone that can help save you some money, then why not go for it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So thank you all so much for joining us and giving us a little bit of your time. Again, my name is Kima, and thank you for joining us for brunch. Until next time, be blessed and enjoy what is on the brunch menu.